George Soros's right-hand man, Howard Rubin, has been arrested for running a sex trafficking operation out of a penthouse turned BDSM sex dungeon. Rubin is a retired Wall Street executive who managed funds for the Soros Fund and other wealthy clients. Rubin and his assistant, Jennifer Powers, also indicted, reportedly spent over $1 million to fund this operation. All right, how do you give me an article? Howard Rubin, ex-NYC financier with ties to George Soros, arrested for allegedly sex trafficking women to sex dungeon, penthouse, feds say. So a retired Big Apple financier who worked for years at George Soros' investment firm allegedly tortured former Playboy models and other women in a Midtown penthouse turned BDSM sex dungeon for about a decade, federal prosecutors say. Howard Rubin, age 70, was busted by the feds at his Fairfield, Connecticut home Friday morning on sex trafficking charges for allegedly luring dozens of women to New York City between 2009 and 2019, where he restrained, beat, and electrocuted them, the Brooklyn U.S. Attorney's Office said. The famed former money manager known as Howie, or H, and worth at least tens of millions of dollars, even appeared to revel in the stomach-turning encounters and text messages with his personal assistant, Jennifer Powers, who is also facing sex trafficking charges tied to the scheme. Before we get any deeper, this guy was a monster. He so-and-so'd women and beat some so bad they needed dental and facial reconstructive surgery. And that's listed in a couple of these court documents. You know what I'm saying? So this is the guy in question right here, okay? And if you know about the left black eye, you know, if you know, you know. The Black Eye Club, they call it. As alleged, the defendants used Rubin's wealth to mislead and recruit women to engage in commercial sex acts where Rubin then tortured women beyond their consent, causing lasting physical and or psychological pain, in some cases physical injuries, Brooklyn U.S. Attorney Joseph Nocella said in a statement. Rubin, dad of three and successful ex-Wall Street financier with a 30-year career, allegedly abused the women in swanky city hotels and a luxury penthouse near Central Park that he leased for $18,000 a month between 2011 and 2017, court papers state. One of the West 57th Street penthouse bedrooms was soundproofed and painted red, nicknamed the Dungeon, and had a device that was used to shock or electrocute the women, the Fed said. The room also had a cross and bed with restraints where the women would be bound and gagged, according to the authorities. 10 alleged victims were named as Jane Does in the 10-count indictment, but prosecutors said Rubin also recruited dozens more women for his alleged sexual deviant scheme. Many of the women targeted were former Playboy models, the Fed said in a letter urging Rubin to be detained. Rubin, a portfolio manager at the billionaire investor's namesake Soros Fund Management between 2008 and 2015, was held without bond Friday evening at a hearing in Brooklyn federal court where he pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors argued Rubin was a flight risk because of the stiff prison sentence he could face and the incredible resources he has, including $7.4 million in the Cayman Islands at his disposal. The fallen former financier, who wore a blue windbreaker, blue jeans, and black glasses, sat calmly with his hands clasped in front of him, as prosecutors also described him as a danger to the public. The feds, nigga, came to court in a fucking sweatsuit. The feds said he hid behind his wealth for decades as he allegedly carried out the sickening abuse, even sending giddy texts to his longtime personal assistant about his love of hurting women. In one of several horrifying exchanges detailed in court papers, Rubin and Powers, the woman that was in the picture with him, allegedly discussed electrocuting a tied-up woman's genitals. I don't care if she screams, he wrote, along with the laughing face emoji in another sickening message, the Fed said. The alleged victims were typically vulnerable or in desperate need of money and were given drugs or alcohol, including Valium, that got them inebriated for the encounters, prosecutors said. While some of the women agreed to a safe word with Rubin they could use when the sex was getting too rough, he allegedly ignored their pleas. Others were gagged so they couldn't object, and he wouldn't even continue if the women passed out, prosecutors alleged. And he would still continue if the women passed out. Okay. So these are the Jane Does and from what year to what year. Rubin also had a stash of non-disclosure agreements that included a risk of injury disclaimer he kept in a safe that he forced the women to sign, the feds charged. Powers, age 45, who started working for Rubin in 2011, was allegedly instrumental in finding the women, mostly through social media, and flying them into New York. After the sexual encounters, Rubin or Powers allegedly paid the victims through a wire transfer or PayPal and Venmo. Typically, the women would receive $5,000 per encounter, but if he was left unsatisfied, he doled out several $1,000s less, according to the feds. Overall, it's estimated at least $1 million of Rubin's money was spent on the alleged sex trafficking. The former well-heeled Manhattan philanthropist's alleged dirty deeds first came to light in lawsuits nearly a decade ago. Rubin's longtime wife, Mary J. Henry, filed for divorce from him in 2021 after he was accused of sexual abuse in these same suits. He was taken to civil court in 2017 by 3 Florida women, 2 described in court documents as Playboy playmates, Mia Lytle and Amy Moore, and a third, Stephanie Caldwell, said to be a model and dancer who accused him of violent sexual assaults. I thought this comment was interesting that somebody said. The feed gives you a villain, a name, a dungeon, a headline. They know this formula works. Tie a private horror to a public network. Make the entire structure look like one man's vice. Repeat it until the audience thinks they've seen the truth. It's not just one penthouse. It's not just one right-hand man. It's a system laundering its rituals through shock stories, and then they give you a scapegoat, and they hide the machine. This is how power launders its crimes. It gives you a face and a dungeon, so you stop asking about the network that built it. The more you know, y'all. Peace.